Morning, everyone.
We're going to give it a few minutes for folks to join.
Grab a cup of coffee. Should have a pretty good group this morning. So my name is Bryn Oakleaf. I'm the Efficiency Excellence Network Manager. I am here co-hosting this webinar with you today. Just by way of quick orientation, you should have a toolbar either at the top of your screen or at the bottom of your screen. You have the ability to enter questions in the chat or to raise a hand and we'll bring you off mute. We're gonna have quite a bit of content in here, so please don't be shy with questions. We want to make sure this is as useful for you as possible. So we'll include some quick links, hyperlinks in the chat for you as well, but at the end, we'll be happy to share the slide deck as well as the recording. And at the very end, we have a very short survey just to get a little bit of feedback on how useful this webinar was for you today. So if you don't mind taking that and give us some feedback, that'd be great. Now I'm going to hand it off to Steve Casey.
Great. Thanks, Bryn. Let's wait for the PowerPoint to come up here.
Sorry, I apparently was not sharing my screen. 1 second. All right, you should see that now.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this morning. We have a lot to cover today. We have a bunch of programs we want to go over for flood recovery. So, I manage our supply chain team. So working with contractors like yourselves and wholesalers who are participating in our different program offerings. And so today we have Colin Santee, Robin King, Lauren Wentz, and Bryn Oakleaf, who will be going over some of these flood recovery options for your customers. Go forward. Awesome. So obviously, people who are dealing with these floods are going through quite a bit. So if they need any help, there's a couple numbers there that they can call for a helpline for disaster distress, or obviously if there's any crisis or suicide thoughts, there's a number to call as well if needed. For folks, well, what we'll cover today, so how to report damage and get help first and foremost, that process. Colin's going to go over the commercial offerings that we have available for customers, and then Robin will get into some offerings for homeowners and tenants. And then Lauren will jump into our residential rental property rebate offerings. And then finally, Bryn will handle a trade ally incentive that we are working towards offering contractors. So just a quick disclaimer, this webinar is intended to provide a general overview of the resources available for Efficiency Vermont customers. So to know the most up-to-date rebate amounts and information that qualifies customers, please visit our website. It's efficiencyvermont.com/flood, or you can call our customer service team or reach out to your account manager directly. All right, so how to get customers help to report damage and to get help. And so what they're going to want to do is call 211 to report any flood damage. So you can see there's a link to that. It's vermont211.org. They also have a phone number, and then they can fill out a form following the link, whether they're a residential customer or a business. There's also some state resources. So again, it's vermont.gov/flood to get any additional state resources that are available. And finally, and most importantly, customers need to apply for FEMA. They need to follow that process before they submit anything to Efficiency Vermont for this flood relief. So please make sure that they do that. It has been extended, the application process to FEMA, until October 12th. All right, so let's jump into some flood recovery resources. And first up, we have Colin Santee, who's leading the charge for our commercial customer offers. So Colin, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thanks, Steve. Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Colin Santee. I'm a program manager on the commercial and industrial side at Efficiency Vermont, and I am managing our commercial flood recovery efforts. So there are three key aspects to our commercial recovery. The first one being technical assistance. So technical assistance, this is going to consist of helping the customer identify their needs. As you all know, the people you work for, they're pros at what they do and what their business is, but they don't always have the experience of like knowing exactly what they're going to need for mechanical or electrical infrastructure. So that's going to be an important first step and part of the technical assistance that we will provide. Additionally, we have engineering resources available to help mitigate the impact of any future flooding events. This starts with an on-site presence. So literally like meeting people where they're at. This is as everyone knows, a very significant event and people are overwhelmed. So just coming at folks with more paperwork, we didn't think would be a very effective way of delivering support. So we really plan to be in the field and just have that human connection as much as possible to make it easier on this customer market. And then the third key aspect of it really is that focus on the one-on-one project support. So that can, I don't want to call it hand holding, but it's extra empathy and attention for these types of projects that we'll put out. It's like, I'm also our lighting program manager and I love lighting projects. Those are satisfying to customers, but when people get the heat turned back on to stay warm, that's pretty important. So being able to provide that one-on-one assistance at whatever level it is that the customer needs is what we are going to do. Okay, next slide. Thank you, Bryn. So the gist of the incentives or the rebates that we have to go out for commercial customers is a $1,000 incentive per piece of equipment. So the $1,000 per product is in addition to our standard midstream offers. So any product or any like heat pump or high efficiency condensing unit or commercial kitchen equipment, anything that already gets some money from us is going to be eligible for this extra $1,000. We do have a limit of up to 4 of these flood recovery rebates per impacted customer. And our eligibility is any business who sustained damage to their infrastructure or like the building. A lot of businesses sustain damage like to revenue loss or just operational losses, but we're focused on the buildings with this program. So the exciting part about the eligibility requirement is we can backdate it. So it's retroactive to any purchases that were made right up when the flooding was first starting. So if you're working at a customer's place and they've already done something because they couldn't wait for us to make a program, that's fine. We can still work with them and work to get them some of this rebate support, provided the equipment qualifies. So on this slide, we'll talk about what the different categories of products are. I mentioned lighting, but lighting's high up. So typically we're seeing that all the stuff that's lower down is where the support is needed. So any heating and cooling infrastructure, so heat pumps, heat pump water heaters. Our big list is the commercial kitchen equipment, or CKE. I could read all those off, but you all can see them and you know what's in a commercial kitchen. I've got another note on that later, but I think we're good there. So yes. So how to get these rebates? Yes, thanks. So the first thing, you can call us. You can go online. We've got a nice simple URL /biz flood. That'll bring you to this page that you see on your screen now. There you can check out that the previous slide I just showed and what products, like what fryers are qualified or what heat pumps are qualified. You can get a list of what distributors participate in our midstream programs. You can do all of it. So go online is the best way for you as a contractor to get this info and pass it off to your customers. And on this one, okay, the fine print. So the first one are rules on if it's going out and getting support. This equipment must be listed on our qualified products list. So it's got to be something that we support. So Energy Star listed or whatever other qualifying entity we have, it's got to be listed. Additionally, this equipment has to be new. And a lot of times in commercial kitchens, equipment will get purchased that's slightly used and just cleaned up a little bit. But that is technically not eligible for our midstream programs and not eligible for this recovery support as well. So the equipment has to be new. Another thing that's not new is the customer is responsible for any tax liability. So our incentives go to cover the cost of the products, not all the back end stuff, but that's no change from what we do now. The third one is a fun one. This is extra money. It's an adder. It is one extra piece of paperwork, but like we mentioned, we can help fill it out too. But this is extra money on top of our additional or our existing rebates. So that's pretty good. And to get our existing rebates, typically you would go through a participating distributor. They're all around the state and a variety of supply houses, but in the heat of the moment, if people were working on just getting something in and they didn't go through someone who's on our list, that's fine. We have a means to get customers that additional money, that midstream rebate as well. So we can really work. We've had one customer come through already. They had 8 pieces of equipment they were replacing, so we got to pick from the 8 for their 4. And additionally, some of our staff had noticed that they didn't receive a midstream rebate. So before we sent them back their check, we filled out the other paperwork and got an extra $1,400 in their check. So 1 for 1, a good start. And yep. So yeah, more details on the midstream rebates. This flood recovery rebate for commercial customers is an adder. Okay. And the last slide I have is other resources. So you may be wondering why there's a hammer on this. Oh no, those are pliers. But there's no one tool for every job, right? So no matter how much you want to use your pliers, just smack something in. It's not always gonna work the best. So the same way we want to have our program smack people back to recovery, it's going to take multiple tools. So we got to align with our partners at the state and the BGAP program. That's the big one for commercial customers who are impacted by flooding. That award was up to $20,000, but they recently increased it to be 30% of uncovered losses. So that's pretty significant support for customers. So, and we want to work very closely with the ACCD and the RDCs to make sure that, if we're the hammer and the customer needs the pliers, we can get them those too. We're not going to force the hammer in there. We're not going to force the pliers. So we have these other additional resources that we can help. So I think we'll go to the next slide with any questions on the commercial stuff or on the commercial recovery rebate program.
Thanks, Colin. Feel free to raise your hand or again, put anything in the chat. We can, if questions come up later on, we can revisit this section too. No, it's a lot to dive into and digest this early. So I'll just give you a minute to. And Colin, if there are any URLs that you want to include in the chat,
Ooh, good idea. Okay.
that folks can access right now, that might be helpful too.
Cool. I'll drop in our main one for the Biz Flood page. And after I go off cam, I'll stick around too. So if there are any other questions that pop up, I'll be here for you. So
Thanks so much, Colin.
cool. Thanks, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Robin King. I am a program manager here at Efficiency Vermont, and I'll be talking a little bit about our current offers for homeowners and tenants. And for those of you who might be wondering what property owners can access, I just want to name that my colleague Lauren Once will come on camera after my segment and talk a little bit more specifically about rental property owner offers. So stay tuned for more information. Generally speaking, this is the process that a customer would need to go through ahead of accessing Efficiency Vermont's incentives. And I just want to note that, this can feel kind of complex. And if anyone has questions about what customers are able to access or kind of what the specifics are of the information that I'm about to review here, do please reach out to Efficiency Vermont, either your account manager or our customer support line. We're absolutely happy to help walk people through kind of what their customers are experiencing or, like any other questions that you might have. So we're here to help you help your customers. So I just wanted to note that at the top. Generally speaking, someone would have to go through this exact process on screen ahead of accessing Efficiency Vermont incentives. So a customer would need to look into their insurance, FEMA as well. And then also the weatherization assistance program if a customer is eligible to access those services and then come to Efficiency Vermont. It is important that the customer work through the FEMA process, given that someone might be putting their FEMA support at risk if they access incentives too early. So that's why we're kind of stressing over and over and over again. FEMA is very important in this grand scheme of our incentives. So just a note there, FEMA first. A lot of our materials have FEMA contact numbers on them. So please direct customers to reach out directly to FEMA if they have questions about that process. Next slide, if you would. So we do have some technical support that we're able to offer folks who are curious about kind of where they can start or kind of what reconstructing with flood in mind might look like. So we have over the phone consultations available. We have virtual home energy visits, which you can see on screen here. Is either someone kind of showing us their home with their camera on their phone or with their computer, but certainly, we can serve folks with virtual home energy visits over the phone for those who don't have the technical acumen to show us their home. And there's plenty of online resources on our website, and I absolutely encourage folks here to look at our website. A lot of information, but very specific. So it could answer a lot of questions that folks might have just to kind of visit the website first, although we're here on hand, if anyone does have any other questions. Next slide, please. So we're going to dive a little deeper into what the actual rebates look like. Next slide. So this is a general overview of the offers. Again, our website is very specific, but typically customers are looking for support in these areas, which is what we've oriented to. So in terms of large appliances, if a customer does have a large appliance that is no longer functioning, we have support for Energy Star certified appliances. This is applicable for refrigerators, freezers, clothes washers, and dryers. If folks need a new appliance, it's a small appliance, it doesn't need to be a replacement. So these are also Energy Stars, kind of what we're supporting here. So this could be air conditioners, dehumidifiers, or air purifiers. For heating systems, we are offering support for heating systems that are no longer functioning. This does include boilers, furnaces, wood stoves, and ductless heat pumps. Wood stoves can be supported as a supplemental heating system. And if there are fossil fuel boilers and furnaces, they must be replaced with Energy Star boilers and furnaces. Last but not least, certainly water heaters. So again, this is something that is going to be replaced, and it can be replaced with Energy Star heaters or heat pump water heaters. So the max total rebate for all appliances and HVAC systems is $10,000 per household. And I just want to underscore, if you are working with someone who is a tenant, they must submit a declaration of ownership to access these offers. So there is kind of a specific form that they would need to fill out. It's available on our website. And again, if this is something that you're feeling kind of unsure of how to walk someone through, feel free to reach out to customer support or your account manager. They're happy to help walk through kind of what that looks like, because we know that all the folks here are just so good at helping their customers as the best of their ability. So always just want to say thank you to this crowd. Next slide, please. In terms of customer eligibility, once again, the customer must apply to insurance in FEMA if in a declared FEMA county before accessing Efficiency Vermont offers. We are going to be looking for a FEMA claim number when someone submits their application. So that is a very important step. The customer must meet income requirements listed on the rebate form for lower moderate income, which I'll be covering shortly here. There is a 10,000 cap per household. This does not apply to Efficiency Vermont incentives received in the past. And the flood damage has to have occurred between July 10th and July 31st. For Addison County residents, if the flooding happened between July 10th and August 10th, those would also be eligible. Tenants, again, have to have a declaration of ownership. So that is something that's specific, and that means that they would need to have owned what they're trying to replace. So just a note there, again, if that feels confusing, please reach out. But this is kind of the eligibility criteria that we're looking at. So it's something that you can kind of map to when you're talking to your customers. Next slide, please. So I think a lot of you are familiar with these tables. This is the annual household income limit by household size. So it just shows kind of if someone is below or at these numbers, this is kind of what we would be looking at in terms of assessing their income. We do present this to customers, so they are looking at this specifically and signing off on it. And you know, for almost everything that I'm talking about here today, it would be a self-attestation. But just for reference, you know, this is something that folks will have to kind of look at and assess if they're eligible, attest to that when they're submitting their application. And if folks here are looking for that, again, everything is on the website and on the forms that we're asking customers to fill out. But just to try and orient around kind of what we're talking about in terms of eligibility for everything that I just reviewed, lower moderate income, access only. Next slide, please. This is, I'll just acknowledge a wall of text. It's essentially everything that I just looked at kind of at a high level. This does exist on our website. So there are kind of specific rebate amounts per the type of equipment. So I would highly recommend familiarizing yourself with this table, again, on our website. But, you know, there are different income level, different offers based on the income level. So this is where it can be really impactful and important to help customers kind of assess where they're at with their income level, so they have a sense of what they would be eligible for in terms of the rebate. And again, this is where Efficiency Vermont customer support is totally happy to help step in and help customers assess what they might be eligible for. So never feel shy in referring someone to our customer support line so they can get the support they need to feel confident in moving forward. Next slide, please. So weatherization has a little bit of a different offer here, which is really robust for homeowners who are interested. we've made a lot of adjustments to our current weatherization offer to try and make it as accessible as possible for flood impacted homeowners. So a blower door test is not required at the beginning of a project because we know a lot of folks have already kind of worked to gut their homes or do work that might impact the thermal envelope. We are, saying this in front of you, but we're also saying it to customers that the Efficiency Excellence Network contractors are the best and easiest way to access incentives. So we're directly referring folks to find a pro or retailer so they can find a contractor that can help them, weatherize their home. If homeowners have started work, we are not waiving the requirement to use an EEN contractor to inspect and test the work. And ultimately, if someone is investing in one of those test out visits and the work isn't eligible for the home performance program as it stands, we're trying to support customers in recouping their expense in terms of getting the work tested. So there is an offer for them to support their audit costs. So we're covering 75% of that audit cost if the work is found to not be eligible. Everything else in terms of the home performance program still stands in terms of the incentive levels and the incentive structure. So 75% of project costs up to either $4,000 or $9,500, depending on income eligibility. And this is a program where household income will actually be verified, a documentation-based review by our partner Opportunities Credit Union, which follows the standard process as it is right now. But it's part of the requirement of participating in that program if customers are interested in the higher incentive. And one other note, sorry, Bryn, you were very good at advancing the slide, but for customers who had a previous weatherization project, we are not enforcing a lifetime cap, so a customer would actually be eligible for the full incentive amount if in a flood impacted area, as we know that in some cases, some weatherization work might have been damaged. So we want to give customers full access to all the resources we can give to help them get back up to snuff. Next slide. In terms of financing, we've also made some adjustments here. Next slide. So the home energy loan for flood impacted homes offers a 0% financing rate up to 5 years for all income tiers. There is no minimum loan amount. The loan maximum would be $30,000. Conventionally, it's $20,000, so that's an increase. Folks in flood impacted areas can borrow more if they need to. We also are enabling folks to finance all health and safety measures. So if a health and safety measure is necessary for another flood project, so if it's necessary for fossil fuel heating replacement or cold climate heat pumps or other things that might come into play in terms of the work that you're helping the customer do, we're allowing kind of that health and safety background work to be financed, as we know that's so important in this scenario, that there's a lot of work kind of to be done to make these homes ready for the work that you're going to be doing. So if that has felt like a barrier before, that barrier is removed for flood impacted homes, which we hope is helpful for you all. The participating lenders are VSECU, Opportunities Credit Union, and NeighborWorks of Western Vermont. So, for those of you who have accessed the home energy loan before for your customers, essentially same process. There's a new project verification form that's listed on our website. The lenders are very skilled in kind of reevaluating someone's project verification form if they submitted the wrong one. So, there's a lot of support that you all have with the lenders if you are feeling like you need some extra help there. Next slide, Bryn. So in terms of allowable projects under the home energy loan, kind of the standard list. So weatherization, heat pumps, hot water heaters, wood heating systems, Energy Star appliances. On a limited basis, customers are going to be allowed to finance fossil fuel heating equipment, which is a change. And it's going to be the fossil fuel heating equipment that's eligible through the other flood recovery offers that I just reviewed. So if you have any questions on what that looks like, again, feel free to reach out. And I'm actually seeing a correction, but health and safety measures, full funding. So sorry if that's a little confusing, but typo. I think that's the end of my content. So passing it over to Lauren.
Great. Thanks so much, Robin. So happy to be with you all this morning. Thanks, Brent, and wanted to speak about the flood recovery programs or offers that we've developed and put out specifically for rental property owners of residential rental properties. Just a quick note there. So in general, the challenge, of course, for rental property owners whose building properties were flood affected is that their investment is challenged, of course, not just from an income on a monthly basis if there are folks who are not paying rent currently, but certainly the impact of safe, affordable, healthy housing for renters across the state. So our priority here is to serve rental property owners, and by way of that also provide benefit to the tenants who live in their buildings. So want to bring attention to one major difference between what Robin spoke to in terms of eligibility versus for the rental property owner flood recovery offers. So whereas for homeowners and renters who can access services that Robin spoke to, that relies on household income annually. The rental property owner offers rely on the rent levels for each individual unit at the rental property. And so this table below lists that out. So that's an important distinction. What these rent levels represent are the affordable limits as defined by HUD for anybody moderate income and below. So as long as an individual apartment unit rent level in these individual counties by bedroom count falls below these levels, folks can access these services that I'll speak to. Keeping it pretty simple, we are providing up to $10,000 per unit per apartment dwelling for major appliances, also water heating and ductless heat pumps. And then for items that address the whole building, central systems, what have you, up to $10,000. So also on our website, navigating there for flood recovery offers, there's kind of the list of what the incentive levels are as well. If you can kind of think back to that, as Robin called it, wall of text, I'll call it a great resource that she had up on a slide, listing all of the rebate levels. For the rental property owners, we have one level regardless of whether folks fall kind of on what would be considered the low income side of this chart versus the moderate income side. All right, one quick thing to also highlight in terms of order of operations for rental property owners, it does vary a bit from residential homeowners. That is to say, rental property owners cannot access FEMA for their properties. And so the first order of operations is for a rental property owner to access and to apply for their insurance for any relief and funding there. The next step is to apply for any available Efficiency Vermont incentive. And then after that, rental property owners can also take advantage of the BGAP grant funding that Colin actually mentioned before that's available to businesses as well as rental properties. So heads up there, there's access to additional funding after Efficiency Vermont for rental property owners. So here's a quick overview of the items that are available, large appliances, small appliances. The main thing I want to call out there is that for air conditioners, dehumidifiers, and air purifiers, those do not need to be replacing something that was damaged and is deemed kind of essentially a failure as a result of the flood. Those can be purchased new. From a health and safety perspective, we want to encourage those if it's necessary. And we also kind of wanted, of course, to touch on heating systems as well as hot water heaters. So one quick note about combining offers. To make this rental property owner flood recovery offer a one-stop shop for owners whose properties were affected, want to call out that this offer or these offers cannot be combined with the rental property rebate program that's been in market already. So folks can't double up, if you will. So the incentive levels on replacing appliances, heating systems, water heating, and whatnot here are meant to be robust enough to cover the vast majority of costs for rental property owners, particularly in each individual unit. All right, let's advance. All right, here's my wall of text, and I'll keep this up here just for a moment to let it wash over folks, but just a call out in terms of the incentive amount being just one column here, but certainly, hopefully this all looks pretty familiar in format and structure to what's available for homeowners at the individual measure level or technology level. All right, and if we advance one more, so just want to call out a few fine print notes. So again, property owners must submit to insurance before submitting to Efficiency Vermont for in-unit products, so appliances, what have you, a water heater that serves one particular unit. The individual rent level for that unit is what needs to be considered in terms of eligibility. For technologies or measures that address the whole building, this is a little bit different. At least 50% of the units, the apartment units, need to fall below those rent level thresholds in that chart a few back. So essentially, at least 50% of the building needs to qualify based on rent levels for whole building measures. And a quick call out for something we have both stated at the top of our form and also in the terms and conditions. It'd be great for you all to be aware of as well. We have included a rental rate protection clause, which essentially is our kind of attempt to really convey to rental property owners that it is our desire and our expectation that the improvement of these rental properties with new equipment necessary post-flood impact also don't result in a process where a property owner is increasing the rent of their property because its aspects of it or components of it are new, revived, what have you. And so the rent rate protection is designed to help not stabilize at a consistent level, but not have rents increase as a result of the improvements from the flood recovery offers. This kind of clause is actually pretty consistent with what exists from all programs funded by the Department of Energy, including the Weatherization Assistance Program nationwide. So this is language that exists elsewhere, both in Vermont state-funded programs as well as in other states. So we're trying to introduce that for consistency's sake, but also in principle. And I think that may have been all the content I had, but just like for Colin and Robin, happy to answer any questions and kick it back over to Steve.
Thanks, Lauren. All right. And if folks have questions at the end, you know, we'll stick around and answer anything that comes up.
And similarly, Robin and Lauren, if there's any quick links you want to include in the chat, you can go ahead and do that now, just so folks can jump over when they have a chance to.
All right, Bryn, are you up next here?
I am. I've got a couple slides. So in order to take advantage of these offers and to leverage our trade network and skilled contractors in the state, we're looking to launch a trade ally incentive. The goal being to mobilize contractors before heating season. It's quickly approaching, as we know, to help get specifically our residential customers heating systems working, functional heating systems prior to heating season setting in. We're looking to do that by again leveraging the incentive offers that Robin and Lauren just mentioned, and pairing that with electrification and resiliency adders. Note that this program is still in development, so we're working out the details, and some things are subject to change. So what's on here might change slightly by the time we launch, hopefully in mid-October. Some key elements of the design that we're looking at is having it be an opt-in design, basically asking our contractors to prioritize low moderate income residential customers that have been flood impacted. So that's not necessarily just for declared counties, but they need to be able to be eligible for those, again, for those incentives. So however that is applying at the point in time, it would pair with the residential flood incentives. These funds are available on a one-time limited basis through the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources. We anticipate that eligible projects, again, will match the heating and hot water systems that were just introduced, and again, match the low moderate income residential customer base. For electrification and resiliency measures, these are again just adders, so optional adders that can give a bonus for contractors for completing those additional tasks. that are helpful to the customers. And we anticipate, because there's limited funds, there will likely be a per project capped and potentially a per month cap. So per home, per resident cap, and then a monthly cap. We're still teasing out what that looks like as we finalize the available funding. So more to come on that soon. So projects eligible, not going to dig into that too much, since you've already heard it a couple times before, and it's written here on the screen. I think the most interesting thing for contractors is to know that they can earn up to $1,000 per project for leveraging these available residential incentives, and $250 adder for each of the adders. So there's a resiliency adder for locating equipment above designated flood levels. Some municipalities require this. I think maybe only a couple, but seeing that offered, and those installations basically moving the equipment out of the basement and above flood level, flood prone levels. And electrification adders. It doesn't always make sense for a homeowner or renter to consider electrification. It may be more expensive to move away from fossil fuel systems. So completing an electrification economic analysis, we have some guidelines and resources that we would pair with this to help you navigate next steps on what we would consider complete for that. But that's basically to help customers determine, like, is it actually going to be more expensive if they move away from fossil fuel systems entirely? So wanting to make sure that we're serving our customers as best we can. Complete heat pump design calculations. Really, these should be completed with all heat pump installations, but here we're emphasizing the importance of that with the adder. And then two other electrification adders would be to include a circulation pump and mechanical ventilation. And those have existing incentives available. So the products would need to match the qualified product list, the QPL, for those products too. Once we get this launched, we try to keep this, again, as simple as possible to take advantage of it. Reach out to us at the Efficiency Excellence Network. You can call CS, you can use the email there, it'll come to me, and I'll help work with you on next steps. From there, we'll just have you sign a participation agreement, share some basic documents that should be readily available to you anyway, license, certificate of insurance, W-9, things like that. And then the most important thing is assisting the flood impacted residential customers with their heating and hot water needs, with installations, and again with the adders. One important step is to make sure that you are offering some assistance to the customers with completing the incentive request, the rebate requests, and helping them submit that. It can be overwhelming, it can be confusing, so having your expertise and your guidance and your connection with us here at Efficiency Vermont will, I think, go a long way to, one, giving the customer some confidence and reassurance, but two, it'll be very important for us to match the trade ally incentive request with the project that's been completed. On a monthly basis, we'll ask the contractors that are opting in to submit a template reporting form. It simply has the qualified product information and details on the adder with supporting invoices, etc. So again, just trying to keep it as high level and simple as possible to access that, with the goal of ensuring that we're getting heat and hot water to our low moderate income flood impacted customers as quickly as we can. So some other offers and resources to be aware of. So you can opt in, of course, to the Trade Ally incentive. You can also enroll with us with the Efficiency Excellence Network. There's more incentives and benefits by being a member. We can go into that with you one-on-one as well. To promote your business, you can also be a registered contractor with the Office of Professional Regulation. At some point, you might be required to do this anyway in the near future if you're doing projects over $10,000. Or if you're a plumber, electrician, register with the Department of Fire Safety, specifically as being listed as a contractor interested in helping with these flood impacted customers. Our distribution utilities may have additional incentives, so it's good to have a sense for what those are and to help your customer navigate if there are additional incentives beyond what we offer. And, you know, in some cases, there might be some damage to vehicles. If you or your customers have any impact from that, certainly reach out to us. We can help with pairing you with some resources to get those vehicles replaced or additional rebates and incentives for that. And I believe that brings us to our last slide.
Awesome. Well, thanks to all the presenters today. That was great. I know for folks on the call, that's, you know, a lot of information to take in. So as we said earlier, you know, we recorded this training. We'll send that around to folks. If people have questions, we're happy to take those now. And, you know, if you'd rather, you know, take it offline, please, you know, either call our customer service department or your account manager. We're happy to talk through any of these program offerings with you. So we'll sit here for a few minutes. And again, either, you know, raise your hand and we can take you off mute, or you can throw a question in the chat.
I just want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to join us. And if you know of others that might have interest, or partner companies that might have interest, please have them reach out to us. And of course, any customers, friends, neighbors, family that might be able to take advantage of these incentives, you know, please encourage them to reach out to us as well. Well, Steve, what do you think? Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, doesn't look like there's any questions in the chat. So I think we'll leave it there. Again, please do reach out, you know, if any questions come up. And again, we'll send that recording out to you shortly. So thanks all, appreciate it.
Thank you so much.